What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Podium Conversations. I am your host, Aramis, and it is time to get into some more intellectual, critical thinking, in-depth information that we can get from these press conferences and really try to get to the bottom of what's really going on. I had an interesting thought that I want to start off with, but first and foremost, what's going on, Albert? What's going on, Billy B? We're gonna start this off with some comments. Billy B says, what's good, everyone? Let's fix this team even though nobody is listening. I mean, ain't that something? Albert says, you guys ignored the last time I said this, but Budda Baker is potentially getting traded and he would help our secondary like crazy. So, all right, let's go ahead and address that one real quick. All right. The deal with Budda Baker is kind of tricky because last I checked, I think he was making 18 million. Let me see. You look up his contract information right now. Yeah, I want to see his contract. Okay, so he signed a 3-year deal last year. He got a $12 million signing bonus. So yeah, okay. So it's a 3-year, $54 million deal. Let me see if I can get the breakdown on over the cap here. That's a site I like to use, a little bit easier to read for me. All right. So this year his cap number is 10 million. Let's see what a post June 1 trade looks like for them. So they're not saving that much. The dead cap hit wouldn't be bad. So over the next 3 years of this contract, the dead cap hit is $3 million. And if they were to let him go this year, they would save about almost $8 million in cap space. 7.75. We would probably only have to pick up. So here's the thing: if they trade him, what the Bills or what the thought process usually is the Bills trade for the player, the team eats the contract or the dead money, namely, and the Bills just kind of take on the base salary minus whatever the signing bonus was. In this particular case, though, his prorated signing bonus for this year is $3 million. That's all they would be eating. His base salary for the season is $7 million. So it's not really like this would be a very easy trade for the Bills to pull off. We would in fact be taking the brunt of the base salary. Now, trading for him at this point in time benefits the Cardinals more than it benefits the Bills, right? And the reason why I say that is we have a defense that is difficult enough for the players that have been here and in it to execute it at a high level. I'm not sure I want to see what it looks like for a safety to have to come into this system mid-season and have to deal with all the ins and the outs. Now, Budda Baker is a good player, and he's just 29 years old. But he's had some injury history that we have to be concerned about. On top of that, is he the kind of locker room guy that would fit in with what Sean wants in his locker room? I'm not trying to poo-poo the idea. I would love to have a guy like Budda Baker. I just, looking at the numbers, $7 million right off the bat, you got to get rid of somebody. You got to restructure somebody. You got to do something to be able to fit them under the cap. It's not going to be as easy as what people are saying. I've heard, the Dan Mitchell, I think, tossed this around today, the idea of trading for Garrett Wilson. And the idea was you would just pick up his base salary minus whatever his signing bonus is for this season. And I just want to pull that contract up too, because that one to me is probably a little bit more egregious in terms of what you would have to do in order to make that trade work, than even the Buda Baker trade. If most of Buda Baker's money this year would have been in the signing bonus and he would have had a lower base salary, the deal probably would have worked. And as much as I think that would benefit the Bills, I would say go for it. Even with this thought process that I usually like to take on, which asks the question, is this what the Bills would actually do? I'd be willing to ignore that and still play around with the idea of having Buda Baker. So I definitely think that it's worth kind of taking a look at and making sure that we're sure about it. But let's take a look at Garrett Wilson's contract real quick to see if something like that would work. No, I don't want the Reddit on his contract. Are you serious? Okay. Okay, so 2025. Okay, so technically this year he's still under his no, I'm sorry. So his contract extension doesn't kick in until 2027. So this year his signing bonus is 5.78 million. His base salary is 1.25. So that is a trade that you would be able to work out. However, let me just hold on a second. Let me just make sure the money is right. Okay, so here's the other thing too. I want to look at the Jets salary cap. Okay. All right, so the Jets have about $12 million in cap space right now. They are winless. Even if they were in full-on fire sale mode, I don't think they would be willing to give a player like Wilson to the Bills. The trade would work as far as the numbers are concerned. And the Jets would only have to eat about $5 million in almost $6. It's $5.78 million. The signing bonus, basically, they would have to eat. And it would only save them $1.25 million on the cap. So again, it doesn't benefit the Jets to make this move. It really only benefits the Bills. If I'm the Jets, even though I'm in tank mode, I still have a team that is quite possibly just a quarterback away. The defense is played well at points. The offense still has weapons. They got Breece Hall. They got Garrett Wilson. I like the young tight end they drafted this year. They're building their offensive line out. So I do think they're in a position where, they add a quarterback next year, whether it's through the draft or they sign a guy that might be available. Maybe they pull off some kind of, miracle trade for Kirk Cousins or something like that. And then they're kind of, off and running the rest of the season, trying to win as many games as they can and bring hope for next year. But again, it's not a trade that benefits the Jets in any way, especially sending a player as good as Garrett Wilson to a division rival. So, I think in both cases, it really doesn't make sense for the teams. The Cardinals specifically, they're still dealing with their quarterback situation and trying to see if they can get that figured out, because from what I'm hearing, the locker room wants Jacoby Brissett. Probably somewhere, up higher than the head coach, or maybe the head coach. I don't know for sure yet. But somewhere up in that front office, they're saying, no, we're paying Kyler Murray. It's Kyler Murray when he's healthy. So we got to see what's going on with that, because the team they're not out of contention right now. They still have a good defense. They have great pieces on offense that seem to be getting better playing with Jacoby Brissett. Even as limited as he is, I still think that they can win. So telling them, hey, and I'm not sure if Buda is a captain on that team or anything, but he's definitely one of their most tenured players there. So you'd be asking them to give up one of their most tenured players when they still feel they're in contention to send him, to send him to the, like, he would have to be pushing for that. He would have to be saying, at this point, I've seen enough to know we're not going nowhere this year. I want out. But unless somebody's got, some kind of, news or quote or something like that from somewhere showing that that's what he's doing, I don't see that as being another realistic option, to be perfectly honest with you. Let's get to some more comments here before we start. Nate, what up? Mark says, I don't know. I don't know what we have to talk about. Beanie Boy isn't going to do ish. You're getting Gabe Davis in a one-legged 170-pound corner as upgrades. Bills are roasted, bro. We will be 4-4 in 2 weeks, calling it right now. Bro, I'm running the risk of having Laura on my tail right now for saying this, but and she probably knows I'm gonna say it anyway. But I think I feel that. You know what I'm saying? Like I think that's exactly what's gonna happen. Just knowing what I know about this team and the players, I think that's what we're looking at. But I have to give the benefit of the doubt. I can't just completely shut the door on this team right now. I can't do that until they are out of playoff contention. If they're out of playoff contention, then okay, we can talk all day long because they're out of it. They're done. If they make the playoffs, can't say they're out of Super Bowl contention. We don't know. We have to give them the benefit of the, even though we know, like above a shadow of a doubt that that's going to be the case. Still got to kind of wait and see. And the reason I choose to do it like this, and I've been doing it like this for a little while now, is we're still in a very sensitive position for those fans that want to have hope, that want to believe that this team can still get it together and I think the last thing anybody wants to hear when they're in that mindset is it's over, it's not going to happen. So far be it from me to pee on anybody's cornflakes at this point in time. But I will continue to say what's likely to happen. And that I don't think is, unfair, right? I think, as long as I'm going based off of what I think is likely to happen, they can see it as my opinion. They can see it as whatever. But then when it happens, now we got to have a conversation about it. Dank says, I'm almost ready to let the whole coaching staff go. I think so too, bro. I think so too. One of the things that I think we see more often than not, and this may have to do more with, I gotta ask around. I gotta see because one of the things that I know we were not good at defensively was halftime adjustments. And then we get Nielsen in here, and it seems like this season the halftime adjustments for the defense have been pretty good, which is something that I've been crying for like the last 5, 6, 7 years. Is what this team is trying to do, make an adjustment, and it just kind of seemed like the Bills could never figure out, what it was exactly that the team was doing to beat them, and therefore never came up with an adjustment to kind of shut that stuff down and give themselves a chance to come back in games that they were getting beat. Or if it was a shootout, they just couldn't figure out a way to stop the other team. So it is good to see that, but I don't really see that much on offense. The most we get is a recommitment to the run. You know what I'm saying? They come out of halftime and it's all right, Cook, we're giving it to you, bro. And if he goes, the Atlanta Falcons game, they gave the ball to him, they let him go, they fed him and they ended up scoring a touchdown. But that's not indicative of a consistency in halftime adjustments, right? when I'm thinking halftime adjustments, I'm thinking the Ravens game. I'm thinking all of the wins that we've had, right? There wasn't any additional formations or unique differences from the initial game plan in the first half that I would see in the passing game in the second half. They didn't start targeting a specific receiver more that had a beneficial matchup in the first half, and they just didn't get it to him enough or something like that. So that's on Brady, right? So I think, to that point, I'm with you, Dank. I'm with you. I think we're getting to the point where if they lose to the Panthers and they lose to the Chiefs, and then they have to go through the gauntlet of teams that they have to go through, all of which are, really, really good in some sort of way. We're pushed to a position where we have to worry because the Bills have not shown that they're super strong in any one particular area. There's teams that we haven't been able to run against. There's teams that we can't pass against. There's teams that we can't stop the run against. And there's not one thing that the Bills do that we can go into any game and say, you know what, no matter what, we can count on this aspect of our team to show up every single time, and it's always live and it never fails. We just, that in order to have that, you've got to have elite play in whatever aspect that is. So if you're an elite passing team, you can count on that. You're going to be elite passing the ball every single game. That's what the 2020 Bills were. That's what the 2021 Bills were. Excuse me. But we haven't seen that this year with any high level of consistency that we're used to seeing. Crane Boy says, locker room. I mean, goddamn, but locker room guy conformist. Locker room guy conformist. No, I'm not really sure who you're talking about at that point. You got to let me know. Jack says, do you think McD actually wants to win a Super Bowl or is content with consistent success? He seems content. I mean, he said before the goal is to be competitive every year. So if you go back and watch all of the early press conferences from Sean McDermott, even when they were doing roster surgery in 2018, he specifically said the goal is sustained success. And when you immediately go to sustained success and then you kind of sprinkle in, of course we want to win it all. Like every team wants to win it all. Like when you say it in a just, flippant kind of, matter of fact way, as if, it's not necessarily the focus of the franchise. We want to be competitive every year. Like these are the things that they talk about in these meetings at the end of the season, at the beginning of the season. Like what can we do to sustain success? That's a business model. That's not a plan for a team that's trying to execute winning a championship. Teams that try to find ways to win championships don't think about sustained success. They think about how can we get better. Keys was talking about yesterday, I think it was yesterday, about how, actually it might have been a different episode, about how this team it's different every year. And there's no continuity from year to year, right? And when you talk about not having continuity from year to year, what you're putting out in the forefront, the point that you're making with that is you're not trying to build on what you've set up in the past. And ultimately what that means is you're not trying to get better. That's the inference. If you say, like Joe Brady has said, it's a different team every year, I get that, but the way y'all say it is as if it's an excuse to why you have not continued whatever the success you had last year this year, or how you've not gotten better this year compared to last year. Well, every team is different. It's not supposed to be that way. You're supposed to have a certain level of consistency that you build upon every season. If you know you've got great pass rushers on the interior of your defensive line, and you say to yourself, okay, well, the way to improve on that is to get great pass rushers on the outside of those defensive tackles. If you don't go get great pass rushers on the outside of those defensive tackles, but you say to your fan base, yeah, we want to improve on the defensive line, we're looking for better pass rush, you're not actually looking for improvement on the defensive line. It doesn't line up with what you say. What you prove and what you've shown doesn't line up with the main goal that you've told us you have. That's the problem. So when you ask that question, my answer is he is content. I agree with you. I think it's very hard to make a case that that Sean is not operating from a starting place of we just want to be consistent and sustain success here. That's a problem for me. I'll get to a few more comments and then we gotta start. Albert says, I remember on the First Things First show, and they were talking about how the Bills treat the KC in the regular season as a playoff game and give them the blueprint of how we will play them. Yeah. I said this last season. Albert, I don't think you were around at that point. In the comments anyway, you might have been checking us out here, and I don't know. But my point is, I went to that game. Actually, I went with my mom, and we had box seats. And this is the glare is probably ridiculous, but here's the ticket. I went to that game. I sat in the box. All right, and when we did a show after that game, I said, if you go, and you guys can, those of you that like reviewing video, go back and look at that game and look at after we went up by 2 scores on the Chiefs. Look at the very next drive that they had, and you will see a completely different Chiefs team that was not struggling at all to move the ball. They were throwing the ball downfield. They were doing quick plays to get the ball out fast. They did not have any issues moving the ball at all. And I saw that. I don't think it really occurred to Bills fans that, this is actually something we might need to worry about in the playoffs. Because realistically, everything that we were doing, as aggressive as we were being, they weren't really pulling out all the stops in that game. And then for them to pull that out and go score just to keep it close, and then go back to this, we're going to be methodical and run the ball and do things the hard way and just kind of be more probing than focused on trying to win that game. That's pretty much how they played us every year. I think the last time that they actually played us to beat us was 2 years ago. Was it 2 years? Yeah, I think it was 2 years ago when they lost because their receiver lined up offsides. I think that was the last time that they tried to really beat, because at that point I think the 1 seed was still up there for grabs, and the Bills had an opportunity to get it if we beat them. I could be completely wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that was the scenario at that point in time. But that's the last time that I remember the Chiefs really going all out and trying to beat us. But I say that to say that I agree with Albert. I think when you look at the way the Chiefs play us, it's they probe. They don't come out trying to give their best effort like they do against the Lions, who they know are completely capable of beating them in the playoffs. They don't play us the same way that they play the Bengals. Like, when they come out and they play us, it's, we don't want to show them anything. We want them to show us everything they have. We want their absolute best shot. So we're going to push them. We're going to keep the game close so that we can get all the information we need for when we get to the playoffs. And then we'll have a strong understanding of what their tendencies are, because we know how bad Sean wants to beat Andy Reid. So we're going to take advantage of that. And to be perfectly honest, this is something that has been used against Sean McDermott even back in 2017. We didn't beat the Patriots at all. We 2017, 2018, and I think 2019 was the last year that Tom Brady was there. But in all of those games, we would play him tough, but after a while, it was obvious that Sean McDermott was outthinking himself. And he was trying to compete with a head coach and a quarterback that at that time had mastered the game in the same way that Andy Reid has mastered the game. And Sean gets into these competitive modes where it's more about winning with coaching than it is winning with the players, right? He wants to be the guy that outsmarted Belichick. He wants to be the guy that outcoached Andy Reid. And I think we've seen the fruits of that so far. It hasn't worked out because Andy Reid is saying, all right, you can try and outcoach me, but I got the best defensive head coach in quite possibly NFL history on my team. The only guy to have beaten Tom Brady in the Super Bowl twice. And the guy who consistently shuts everybody in the AFC down except for the Bengals one time. And as long as I give him players, I got my fast guys on my squad. I know y'all can't beat my offense. I'm going to go to the AFC Championship every year. And what y'all going to do to stop it? Like, who's watching the Chiefs right now thinking they'll get beat? Nobody. The goal is to win. Thank you, Billy D. Scroll through here. Any more questions? I don't think we're going to show much versus KC this time. We would be smart not to. We would definitely be smart not to. Denny Dimes, we have nothing to show KC this year because we're not going to beat KC this year. Yeah. Yep. All right. Steve says KC uses regular season as scouting game because KC knows McDermott can't adapt and add wrinkles. Clown show, basically. Yeah. Keep it simple, stupid. That's right. That's what defensive coordinators, that's what any coach is really supposed to do. You make the game easy for these guys so they can go out and play fast. That's what Andy Reid does. It's not rocket science. You go run to this spot, I guarantee you're gonna be open. Why? Because I know my concept is so good that I can put another fast guy on the other side of the field, and he's gonna take the attention away. He's gonna take the attention of these two players. That's gonna open you right up. It's the reason he don't need all of these, massive bona fide, wide receiver ones. It's why he can draft a guy like Xavier Worthy and sign a guy like Hollywood Brown and draft a guy in the second round like Rashee Rice. Like, who was looking at Rashee Rice like he was going to be this? Nobody. Especially nobody in the first round. That's why he don't have to spend them high picks on guys like that. He don't have to trade up for guys like that. Mahomes don't need guys like that because Andy Reid is so good at scheming it up. He could cook it up so quick that regular dudes with a lot of speed is all he needs. Like, that's a mastery of the game that we need. We either need Sean to kind of understand, or just get out the way so that we can have the success we're looking for. All right. We got to get to this press conference. One of the things that I've noticed, let's go ahead and pull this up here. One of the things that I've noticed so far is this press conference is from a couple of days ago. And all the press conferences have been done virtually. Now, the Bills are fresh off a two-game losing streak. And they're on a bye, right? Now, the press conferences that they're still doing from one Bills drive. But the media is not being allowed in the building. So I just want to say up front, I find it kind of weird that Sean McDermott and the other coaches are doing these press conferences virtually as opposed to letting the media in the building. Now, what usually happens when the media is allowed in the building is the media, most of the time, usually, they're allowed in the locker room and they can talk to players, right? But I've experienced this before where I've tried to get a hold of players and I was told everything is on lockdown right now. So I think seeing that this is all being done virtually and kind of knowing that basically means nobody's going to have access to the players, I think that this is an indication that there are some conversations going on in the locker room between players and between coaches that they do not want anybody getting wind of right now. And you have to be connected in order to get that information, out of whoever you can get it out of in the locker room. So, the grift continues. Snarl, what you talking about? Jumbo package, Jimbo 30 plus carries a game, burn the time. yeah. You got to. Thank you, Cato. Thank you. Dank says, what do you think of Eric going to get Eric Bieniemy? I think it could work here with Josh. The issue here is Bieniemy runs he runs an he runs an air raid system. So it would be the exact opposite of what Sean McDermott has been trying to accomplish here. The exact opposite. Nico says, is that a good thing or bad thing, these hush-hush press conferences you speak of? For the sake of finding out what's really going on in the building, it's a bad thing. But for them trying to keep everything out in-house, it's probably a good thing. Again, I don't want, anything that I'm, saying or doing here, coming off as, I hate the team and I'm trying to, find ways to embarrass them. They're doing a great job of that themselves with what they put on the field and the decisions they make during the draft and free agency. I'm just here to point it out in the midst of everybody trying to, search through the bushes and trying to find hope somewhere. I mean, I'll just hold up a sign while they're searching. It's okay if you want to keep going, but it's also okay if you want to just stop and let them prove to you that they deserve your search for hope. But let's just get to it. Here we go.
Hey, Sean, this is Jay with the Buffalo News.
Hey, Jay.
I think I'm first. I got unmuted, so I guess I'm first. Thanks for doing this today.
Yep.
Wanted to ask you about the defense. Have you considered at all the possibility of maybe taking over play calling for that unit?
No. I think, we're trying to improve in every area. And, defensively, I think there's some things we're doing well and some things that we have to improve on. But that has not crossed my mind at this point.
In saying that, obviously, that would be, I guess, a vote of confidence in some ways for the job that Bobby is doing. How do you evaluate that 6 games in right now?
Yeah, listen, I have a lot of confidence in Bobby and our defensive staff. I thought they made some real good adjustments last night in the second half in particular. At halftime, we came out and played really well after half. But overall, again, within our building, I'm confident in the people in our building, whether it's this situation or other situations, that we can get the job done.
Appreciate it, Sean. I hope you can get some rest on the bye week. Thank you.
Yeah, you too, Jay.
Want to
Hey,
get another
Sean,
look at
just wanted to check in. I know.
At halftime, we came out and played really well. Yeah, listen,
Obviously, that would be, I guess, a vote of confidence in some ways for the job that Bobby is doing. How do you evaluate that 6 games in right now?
Yeah, listen, I have a lot of confidence in Bobby and our defensive staff. I thought they made some real good adjustments last night in the second half in particular. At halftime, we came out and played really well after half. But overall, again, within our building, I'm confident in the people in our building, whether it's this situation or other situations, that we can get the job done.
Appreciate it, Sean. I hope you can get some rest on the bye week. Thank you.
Yeah, you too, Jay.
Hey, Sean, just wanted to check in. I know there were quite a few injuries last night, on top of guys dealing with stuff before the game. Just how did everyone come out from last night's game?
Yeah, so what I have for you is DQ, Daquan Jones will be week to week with that calf that I mentioned to you after the game. Joshua Palmer week to week as well. We're dealing with what he incurred last night in the I think it was the early second quarter. And then Milano, Dalton Kincaid, Curtis Samuel, Terrell Bernard, all day to day and dealing with what they're dealing with. And then Max Harrison, we'll see how things look going forward. Right now, he continues to head in the right direction, and there's a chance that we'll open up his practice window in the coming week here.
Thanks.
Sure.
Hey, Sean, John Morrow, AP.
Hey, John.
How do you deal with this bye week and knowing that you've got some reinforcements on the way, especially on the defensive side with Larry and Michael, and also knowing that some of these injured guys are day to day and could be back in time for are expected back in time for Carolina.
Yeah, it'll be good to get these two guys back in the mix. With the injuries that we have in particular, and we'll see how it all unfolds. Right, who's available, who's not. We won't really know again until we get back going a little bit next week here with the guys, and but it certainly will help in terms of numbers and guys who have played.
Given what you've seen from, given what you'll see, what are your expectations with Larry and Michael specifically in coming back, knowing that they haven't had playing time, but how do you treat those two guys coming back?
No, it's a little bit of an interesting situation, somewhat unique when you practice in training camp, then you go on this hiatus, if you will, and then you come back and practice again. And it's natural to expect that there's going to be some knocking off of the rust. And so we have to manage our expectations with that.
And just lastly on the offense, and I know this was kind of, you were asked this last night, when it comes to James Cook's availability and the fact that he wasn't on the field for much of the fourth quarter, in key situations, how do you and Joe address that? And is it a concern that you didn't have some of your, given how depleted you were in some places on offense? How much of a concern is it that one of your best threats wasn't on the field?
Yes, those are things we talk about. And Joe and I have already talked about that to some extent today as we were evaluating the film. So it's an important thing that we keep in mind as we move forward.
Interesting.
Thanks, Sean.
Sure.
Hang on a second.
As we were evaluating the film. So it's an important thing that we keep in mind as we move forward. About, and Joe.
How depleted you were you were asked this last night. When it comes to James Cook's availability and the fact that he wasn't on the field for much of the fourth quarter, in key situations, How do you and Joe address that? And is it a concern that you didn't have some of your, given how depleted you were in some places on offense? How much of a concern is it that one of your best threats wasn't on the field?
So Sean for sure didn't like depleted. He didn't like the idea of certain guys are not on the field. We just don't have anything else. Based on the way that he operates the team in general, where it's the sum of parts mentality that leads to team success, and team success is what wins games. The idea of being depleted means without the starters we can't win games. I imagine that's his thought process that made him kind of furl his brow and kind of look up and just have a live reaction to that specific wording that John Worrell had there. But there's something more going on here with his answer, and I needed to see it again. So let's get through this.
Yes, those are things we talk about. And Joe and I have already talked about that to some extent today as we were evaluating the film. So it's an important thing that we keep in mind as we move forward.
Thanks, Sean.
Okay, so I need to see this again. So one of the things that makes this a little tough is I can't see the whole body, and when you're trying to get stuff, get information from body language, it helps to be able to see a little bit more of the person, or be there with them in person. But this kind of, from the shoulder up kind of deal makes it a little bit tougher to kind of get a better feel for what some of these reactions are. But I managed to pause it right at the part where his mouth does something funny. I'll back it up just a little bit too to see what's going on leading up to that.
How depleted you were in some places on offense. How much of a concern is it that one of your best threats wasn't on the field?
Yes, those are things we talk about. And Joe and I have already talked about that to some extent today as we were evaluating the film. So it's an important thing that we keep in mind as we move forward.
So twice now where we've seen Sean McDermott kind of get a tack in the butt where he sits up like, oh, either that or he's trying to let out a fart. And it could very well be that, but in both occasions, there were kind of direct questions like this about situations that we know Sean is not trying to give up too much information on. The thing with the lips, though,
about and Joe and I have already talked about that to some extent today as we were evaluating the film.
So that little furl that he did, usually when you have little micro expressions like that in reference to something that already happened, you're kind of replaying aspects of it that bring out a certain reaction, right? And sometimes it's it's happening and you kind of doing it on purpose because you're talking to a friend or something like that, and you just, oh man, I really wish I wouldn't have done that, and you'll have that kind of reaction. But when it comes off like that, where you're giving a specific answer but your mouth shows contempt, in any case, whenever you see a tightening of the mouth but you can still see teeth, that is contempt. Think angry dog, right? In the world of body language, angry dog is anger, contempt, frustration, irritation, all those things that deal with a spike in the fight or flight part of the brain, right? So for Sean to be showing this, talking about a conversation with him and Joe Brady, I think there is some, and we saw this with Dayball, but Dayball had a level of juice in the NFL that I don't think Joe Brady has right now from the standpoint of if Joe Brady gets fired, he'll instantly be coveted by another team, right? This would have been the second time that he's fired in the NFL, and it's a pretty bad look if you get fired from a job with Josh Allen as your quarterback. So knowing the culture in that building and knowing how Sean likes to keep people under his thumb, I'm sure that the mindset from Joe Brady is he's having conversations with Josh, and Josh wants certain things in the offense, and Joe Brady is trying to make that happen. That's why you see plays like the play action play where Josh Palmer is running deep and gets a deep pass from Josh. Like Josh wants to see that stuff happen on a regular basis. The flag route to Dawson Knox, those are the kind of things that he wants to see. Those are not West Coast concepts. The flag routes, the post routes. You know what I'm saying? Like the fake fade to the flag route that Palmer ran. Like that's Air Coryell stuff. That's stuff that Josh loves to do. He wants to go down the field. So I'm sure a lot of what we're seeing in Sean McDermott's face comes from the place of having some tough conversations with Joe Brady about what needs to happen in the offense for it to be successful versus the reality of, okay, I understand that's what you want, but Keon Coleman ain't running no zag routes and burning nobody. And us trying to run these fade routes with him at least once a game is not doing us a favor either. If anything, that puts us behind the sticks every single time we do it. And you combine that with, hey, the guy that you thought was the best fit for the team at wide receiver, and you decided to pay him, 20, 26, whatever $1 million it was that we paid Josh Palmer. He's actually not the guy that you thought he was in terms of coming in, being a separator, and being that aspect of the team that we needed to be able to create space for Keon Coleman and Dalton Kincaid and Khalil Shakir. So I that's where I think the contempt comes from. But again, I mean, we're talking about adjustments that need to happen, and a head coach that we know is against what the offensive coordinator and the quarterback ideally would love to do. So that could explain the contention on his face, but that doesn't spell good news for us as far as what we want to see this team be.
So it's an important thing that we keep in mind as we move forward.
Thanks, Sean.
Sure.
Yeah, he wasn't happy about that.
Coach Mookie Hawkins, Well4 Sports 1080. How you doing?
Good, Mook. How are you?
All right. I'm on my way back, back to, 716 myself. But after watching tape, what's your assessment overall?
Well, I'm confident in the people we have in this building, number one. Two is, we can certainly perform at a higher level, and we need to. We need to do our jobs, know our jobs, do our jobs, and be there for one another. And so that accountability piece is important for us as we move forward, and it's always been one of the fabrics of who we are as a team.
Absolutely, Coach. And looking at the film, did you ever consider about trying an odd front at any time?
An odd front?
Yeah.
What do you have in mind right there, Mookie? What would you think that would have helped with?
I think
Did I already do this one? I'm starting to feel like I already did this one. Randy, what's up, man? Sal, what up? Dave Hall told McDermott, step off, I got this. Brady can't, right? I'm starting to feel like I either watched this one already or we did this one on the show. And this was right after that. Okay. So thank you. I felt like it was. So this has got to be the wrong one. Thank you, Laura. Let's stop sharing that. We'll go back. And I thought Yeah, it's from the fourth. Oh, these are from the. So where's the one that I was just watching? Go back to the press conferences. Hold on. All right, man. We ended up doing Brady, and we did Josh. All right, let's get into Bobby Babich. This was right after the game. They didn't do anything new this week, and I'm sure they planned it that way too because they knew I was going to end up doing this show. All right, let's see what Bobby had to say after the game. Let me bring this up for you guys. Give me 1 second. 1 second. 1 second. Or I could just answer a bunch of questions. Let me see. What do we got here? Well, Steve is having a conversation with Sean. Marino says, maybe I'm overreacting, but I'm starting to get midseason 2023 Ken Dorsey vibes from the offense again. Something just doesn't feel right. Almost like they're trying to make Josh Allen beat Kirk Cousins. They've been like, and Marino, you know this. You know this. I think if we go back and look at Sean McDermott's decision the year that we drafted Josh, it wasn't, let's get our unicorn quarterback out there and let him learn and burn. It was talk about a contemptible smirk. It was more about, I want a game manager in there. I want a guy that can operate the offense with timing and anticipation and blah, 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 which is why Nathan Peterman ended up being the starter. Even though there were a lot of people at that time that thought that Josh Allen had showed enough in preseason to be able to be the starter right away, it still ended up being Nathan Peterman. And a lot of people, including guys in the locker room, like, well, where did that come from? Right? But that speaks to what Sean wants to see. And usually most defensive coordinators want that anyway. They want a guy that's just going to come in, operate the offense smoothly, run time off the clock, be methodical, just matriculate the ball down the field, take your time. We don't need to, because what that does for a defense is it allows them to rest and rejuvenate. And when you have a defense that's rested and rejuvenated after every single score, that means the defense is going to be able to perform at a high level. And that's a defense that can win games on its own, right? Even though you need to score points. What that doesn't take into consideration, though, is the types of quarterbacks that you're going to play. The quarterbacks that you're going to have to go up against, where it doesn't really matter how good your defense is. They're going to find ways to score anyway, right? So when I'm thinking about Josh being made into this game manager, I think it's the most unfortunate thing that I think we can ever see as Bills fans. And the craziest part about it is Josh ended up winning an MVP in a season where there weren't many quarterbacks playing well at all. Mahomes was looking bad. It was really just Josh and Lamar Jackson, and Lamar Jackson was fresh off of one. So I'm gonna be perfectly honest when I say this. It is quite possible that Josh Allen got his MVP by default. That sucks to say, but when you think about the actual scenario and the fact that he threw for the least amount of touchdowns that he's ever thrown in his entire career, while also throwing for the least amount of interceptions he's ever thrown in his career. His team goes 13-4. The Ravens quarterback has a significantly better season numbers-wise, and I'm pretty sure they had a better record on top of that. And he doesn't win an MVP, even though he's won it the previous season. It just feels like a win by default. It feels like the NBA when Joker had won 2 in a row, and they was like, "No, we can't give you 3 in a row. We gonna give it to whoever they ended up giving it to." I don't remember that, but because nobody had ever won an MVP 3 years in a row in the NBA, they were like, "Well, we're not about to start that now. No. We're gonna find somebody else that we can justify giving it to." I think this was the same thing. Right? You had Josh Allen, who the NFL has been waiting to kind of become the face of the NFL. Mahomes couldn't be justified anymore because his teams were hard to watch. They weren't a show anymore. So they gave the show to the one guy that they wanted to be the face of the franchise that was putting on a show that season, that had an offense that could, move the ball and make big plays and stuff like that. And when it came down to choosing who they wanted to give it to, one guy had it, but the one guy that they wanted to be the face of the face of the league didn't. So the justification became, look what he did with less. Cool. But who did Josh really beat out for that, though? Aside from Lamar Jackson, who did Josh really beat out for? Because we know the MVP is a quarterback award, so don't come with another running back or a wide receiver name or anything like that. Who had to kill the spider? What? Yeah, I don't like spiders either. I am not. Oh, Laura had to kill him. Good luck with that. Okay, Bills had the better record. They were the 2 seed. Okay. All right. I mean, fair enough. But my point is, who else was Josh competing with at quarterback other than Lamar Jackson? Who did he beat? That was like, really, in the hunt. You know what I'm saying? It just, knowing all this stuff, it's like, why would you take a Ferrari and take out all the parts of the engine that make it go fast and put a carburetor on it and only let that carburetor go up to 50 miles an hour? That's what you're doing with Josh for the sake of empowering your defense. All right. We got a couple of minutes here. I really didn't anticipate there not being any press conferences to get to, but we did spend a little bit of time going over Sean McDermott's presser, which I don't think we did, because I'm pretty sure we went through Brady's and Josh Allen's, and I think I watched Sean McDermott's presser afterwards, which is why it seemed familiar to me. So I do apologize for that. If you got any more questions before we get out of here, let me know. But I think this might be the first show that the first episode that we get to end on time here. Sal says these fans got to stop with the McDermott got us out of the drought beat. Yo, oh my God. I thought I would never hear that coming from you, Sal. not saying that you've been like a Bills apologist or anything like that. Please don't take, what I'm saying is that. But you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. The guy that got us out of the drought, we're playing on Sunday. Try telling a Bills, a rah-rah Bills fan that it wasn't Sean. It was actually the guy that we're playing on Sunday. They'll fight you. They'll fight. What do you mean? What do you mean? Like Sean was the head coach. He came in, he established order, and he did this and he did. Okay. You know what? Let's do this. What was the Bills? Let me see. I guess we're not ending on time. All right. I want to see the win-loss records by year. So in 2016, okay, so in 2016, the Buffalo Bills were 7-9. 7-9. Okay. I want to take a look at that roster. 7-9 with that roster. Tyrod Taylor, LaShawn McCoy, Marquise Goodwin, and Robert Woods were their starting receivers. Cordy Glenn, Incognito, Wood, Miller, Jordan Mills. Then it goes Kyle Williams, Marcel Darius, Adolphus Washington, Jerry Hughes, Zach Brown. I remember him. Preston Brown, Lorenzo Alexander, Ronald Darby, and Stephon Gilmore. Man, imagine being able to have those two corners throughout, along with Aaron Williams, and just keep that whole secondary intact. And then Corey Graham, who was a great safety at the time. For us anyway. Yeah, so the reason I'm bringing up this 2016 team is when you look at the team that they had, and then you flash over to the 2017 team. They traded for Kelvin Benjamin. They signed Deontay Thompson. They got rid of Cordy Glenn and brought in Deion Dawkins. They let go. Let me see. Go back. They let go John Miller and brought in Vlad Dukas. Kept Jordan Mills. Then they got rid of Marcel Darius. They brought in Shaq Lawson. They switched to a base front at this point. So they put Kyle Williams next to Adolphus Washington. They got rid of Marcel Darius. Jerry Hughes on the squad. Zoe was playing weak side. Then they go Preston Brown, Ramon Humber. And then they go Tre'Davious White and EJ Gaines. Those were the starters, even though EJ Gaines got hurt. And then Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer. So Aaron Williams gone. In 1 year, they got rid of the entire secondary. They not only did they let Stephon Gilmore go, but they got rid of Ronald Darby. They traded him away. They let Aaron Williams go. I think he might have reached an injury settlement or something like that for his neck. And then they just never re-signed Corey Graham. Like they gutted a team that had went 7-9, and really the two guys that made a 2-game difference, in my opinion, is Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer. I mean, Tre'Davious White was consistent. He wasn't terrible, but he I don't know, he was pretty good. He had 4 interceptions, 2 fumbles recovered, as a rookie. Right? But Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, both of them came down with 5 interceptions that year. Playmaking safeties in that system. Nobody else really did much. Shaq Lawson had 4 sacks. Kyle Williams had 3. Adolphus Washington had 1. Jerry Hughes had 4. Zoe had 3. I mean, LaShawn McCoy had 287 rushes for 1,138 yards, 6 touchdowns. He didn't do much at all. Kelvin Benjamin, as soon as he was traded for, he ended the season here in Buffalo with 16 catches for 217 yards and 1 touchdown. Like, this is a team that won all those games with defense. With defense and base formation defense, not nickel, base. Because Zoe was that kind of that weak side guy, but he was also a blitzer. That's how he ended up with 3 sacks. So my point in bringing all this up is when you look at what Sean actually did, you could say that he, caused the defense to play better. He turned over a lot of people, but putting everybody back into a base front is what was necessary to begin with. But the biggest impact was the secondary. You got 15 interceptions out of your secondary between Tre'Davious White, EJ Gaines, Micah Hyde, and Jordan Poyer. Like 15 turnovers in general. Like the Bills were what, plus 21 last year? for tops in the NFL. I don't want to have to go look up the turnover ratio and all that kind of stuff, because that's Key's world. Like, my brain will explode trying to look all that stuff up. But my point is, 15 interceptions alone as turnovers just from your secondary. Like, that's a big deal. That's a very big deal. That does not happen a lot, right? So what I think we have to put into context here is, nobody had a book on this defense. It's the first year of this defense. It's a base formation defense, a big shift from what they were doing the previous year. You got 15 interceptions out of your secondary. You ended up with 7, 8, 12. You ended up with 12 sacks between all your defensive linemen, and then an additional 3 from your weak side linebacker. So 15 sacks in general. That's horrible. So he started off with horrible defensive line play. Linebackers did next to nothing, pretty much. I mean, you got 1 sack from Ramon Humbert, no interceptions, no fumbles recovered, none of that. There's literally nothing here for Preston Brown. And outside of the 3 sacks that Lorenzo Alexander got, just a bunch of tackles by everybody, pretty much. So this was a defense that was led by their secondary. So first year of all this, first year of the offense, and the offense, all they had to do was just be consistent. Tyrod Taylor's for sure a game manager. He went 263 completions, 420 attempts, 2,799 yards, 14 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. That's exactly what Sean McDermott is trying to get out of Josh. 4 interceptions is like perfect. Sean is like, perfect. We ain't turning the ball over. Perfect. Right? Because Tyrod Taylor altogether, he had 427 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns rushing. So 18 total touchdowns, 4 interceptions. That's the model for Sean McDermott. You do that, and then your defense gets 15 interceptions and 15 sacks. In Sean's mind, that's how you win. That's how you win. What are we supposed to do with that when you got a Ferrari at quarterback? Yeah, Cato. Then we went to nickel because Edmund couldn't cover, and the league didn't understand it yet. We can't even get 15 pass breakups now with this secondary. They are so far off wide receivers being afraid to be beaten. They are never in position just to do regular expected cornerback play. Yeah. I don't even know why this is a thing. If anything, I would bet the under, y'all. I would bet the under. Just to be safe. I would absolutely bet the under. Yeah, here's the thing. People are looking at this Carolina Panthers game, and we'll talk more in depth about this tomorrow. But I'll say this, and then I got to get out of here. People are looking at this Panthers game and seeing Andy Dalton playing, and they're thinking we should be licking our chops. No. With a defense like they have, they're thinking in the same way that I just showed y'all Sean McDermott is thinking, where we just got to be a little consistent on offense. We be consistent on offense, run the ball. The Bills are going to let us run the ball. So if we need to pass, we'll pass. And we'll be able to do it with much more consistency because Andy Dalton, for the most part, he's kept the offense running at a more consistent level than Bryce Young. I'll just say it like that. Bryce Young, young player, limited quarterback. It shows from time to time, right? So you got to really work into the system ways to offset his limitations. So when it comes to what we're likely to see from Andy Dalton, it's going to be savvy quarterback play, like veteran quarterback play. There's going to be things that he's seen that Bryce Young hasn't seen yet. Like I'll get to Waddle in a second. Give me 1 second. So yeah, so I don't want people thinking that, you know, this Panthers game is just going to be, oh yeah, they're giving us 7.5. Man, okay. Okay, unless there are some really big changes at linebacker and safety, good luck. Good luck. Yeah, Ronald Darby compared to this CB room looks like Deion Sanders or Champ Bailey. Again, imagine having Ronald Darby and Steph Gilmore still here, and let's just say you put Darby at the nickel position and you still drafted Trey White. Imagine having Trey White and Stephon Gilmore as your corners for the entire time. Like, there's no way. There's no way you're not one of the top defenses in the NFL. Period. Like, those set of corners with those safeties, you might not, I'm saying this jokingly, but you might not even need a pass rush. Just try to bat the ball down, and wherever the pass is going, that guy is covered. You just know that guy is covered, period. I'm jokingly saying that, but still, something to think about. All right, so Jalen Waddle. My thoughts on Jalen Waddle is I like the player. I like what he could be here. But coming from the culture that he's coming from the perception of himself that he's coming from, he's going to come here with the mindset that I should be getting the most burn of any receiver on this team because I am the best of all of them, right? Not saying that he's going to come here and be a selfish guy, but guys with the skill set of a Jalen Waddle, unfortunately, I can't imagine him coming here and being content with the target share that Josh Palmer is getting or the target share that Keon Coleman is getting. And let's be honest, whichever guy he replaces, that's going to be his target share. It's not going to be no, like the Bills showed you last year when Cooper was here. It's not going to be no Amari Cooper comes in and gets all the targets. No. You're going to come in and you're going to get what we give you. You're going to earn your way here. If you don't learn all the plays, then you just don't get in for those plays, period. So when it comes to Waddle, that's the expectation. Unfortunately, that's going to be the expectation no matter who we trade for or who we sign. Sean is not going to let this turn into the kind of locker room that it used to be when guys like LaShawn McCoy had the main voice in the locker room. When guys like Stephon Diggs had the main voice in the locker room. He's not going to let it become that. He's not. Yeah, exactly. That's who the Bills are. That's who they are. Randy says, one thing that irks me is Bills reporters like Josh Reed ridiculing fans, making fun of them, saying fans think the sky is falling. It's insulting to think the fans. It's insulting to fans that have football knowledge. Yeah. And I think the idea behind what we do here on this channel is we like to expose those guys. Right? Because for as much as you want to bag on us and say the sky's not falling, let's see what happens on Sunday. Let's see what happens against the Chiefs. Even if we beat the Panthers, the funny part about it is, those guys are going to say, see, told you we beat the Panthers. Okay. How good are the Panthers really? You know what I'm saying? Because I'm sitting here talking about the Panthers team as don't underestimate them in the same way that you underestimated the Falcons, because they're just as dangerous as the Falcons defensively, right? Offensively, we got to see, but defensively, they're just as dangerous. So don't underestimate them. And guys like what's the guy's name? Let me get back to it. Josh Reed. Guys like Josh Reed are looking at us like, hey, y'all need to just calm down. It's fine. It's no big deal. We beat the Panthers. Relax. We'll be fine against we'll be fine the rest of the way. They'll figure it out. Panthers win should not be a barometer of where the Bills of how far the Bills have come. But they're gonna propagate it as we stopped the 2-game losing streak. We beat the Panthers. You can only play who's in front of you, and a win is a win is a win. Like, this is all stuff that they say to just kind of keep shooing people out the door so that they don't have to continue to deal with the questions of why isn't this running the way it's supposed to be running? Why aren't you winning the way you're supposed to be winning with an all-time great quarterback? Why aren't you doing what you're supposed to be doing in terms of making this team better from where they were last year? Why are you looking worse at this point in the season than you were last year? They don't want to have to answer those questions. So just get ready for the propaganda. That's all I'm saying. It says, damn, it's truly depressing. I really wish we could have players that were allowed to play. Unfortunately, that's where we're at. I think somebody else said it earlier in the chat. I mean, you really don't want to hope they lose, but if you're a person that's fed up with what you're seeing so far, that's the only way you're going to see real change. They got to go on a major losing streak, and this team is definitely capable of doing it the way that they're playing right now. I just want to get their schedule really quick. Can they go on a losing streak? No, I don't think they will. So if they lost to the Panthers, we know they're losing to the Chiefs. That's a 4-game losing streak. They'll beat the Dolphins. They always beat the Dolphins. I guess what you would really have to hope for, what you really have to be crossing your fingers for, if it's more important to you to get better coaching in here and better GMs or better general management and better players, if that's more important than anything that happens this season, then you have to hope they lose on Sunday, and you have to hope they lose to the Dolphins. If they lose those 2 games, I guarantee the Bills will go on a 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, it's already 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 game losing streak. They will go on a 6-game losing streak headed to Houston to play the Texans. If they're on a 6-game losing streak, that puts the Bills at 4-8. 4-8. That means the Bills would have to win out the rest of the season just to be able to make a wild card. How many of us are confident they can beat the Patriots in New England? How many of us are confident that the Bengals with Joe Flacco coming here December 7th can't throw the ball all over the yard on this secondary who can't seem to stop anybody? I mean, the one major thing that flies in the face of hope for all of this, if the Bills had to win out through that Texans game, is the Eagles. At that point, just to make the playoffs, you'd have to really hope that the Eagles don't need that game and they're willing to just give it to you. You know the Jets are going to lay down. You know you got that game. That's over with. That game is in the bag. Browns game you don't know about. Steelers game you don't know about. Texans game you don't know about. But you would have to win every last one of those games just to make the playoffs at 9-8. Yeah, I mean, that's the hope. That's the hope, Marino. That's the hope. Yeah, I know. That's what we think now. Like my thing is, all bets are off for what we believe about this team. All bets are off. All the, we know they always beat the Dolphins with. I mean, we said we always beat the Patriots. Then they beat us. We overlooked the Falcons. with Michael Penix. They beat us. I can't look at this team anymore and just assume that they're going to be able to execute the way that they usually do. So to me, everything from here on out is I got to see. This is the last one, and then I got to get going, guys. Steve says, if Carolina is now the measuring stick, the standard used to be the Super Bowl betting favorite. Remember? OMG. Anyone pointing out the fire is called negative and not a fan like we gain anything. Yeah. But we do it anyway, right? All right, we'll do 2 short ones here. McD getting the Tomlin Jr. treatment without a ring. What kind of record would do him in? Not making the playoffs would do him in. Easily. This is a team that was just in the AFC Championship game. If they go through everything that they went through to improve this defense and all the investments in it, and that defense is the reason you don't even make the playoffs, shut it down. Shut it down. Buffalo has the golden ticket, but we can't use it. No, we're not allowed. We're not allowed. All right. I got to get out of here. Let's go ahead and get this back up and running here. Man, thank you to Nate. Thank you to Lynn. Thank you to Steve, Snarl, Marino. Who else? Denny Dimes. Who else? Who else is in here? Laura, thank you. Randy, thank you. Sal, thank you. Who else we got? Cato, thank you. Sure, Billy D, thank you. Who else is in here with us? I think I got everybody. Albert, thank you. Crane Boy, thank you. Who else? Let's see. I think I got everybody. Oh, Leek. What up, Leek? Ain't heard from you in a while. Says, I fear we're too worried about McDermott and not Bean. His roster is super mid, and the lack of effort from Bean is very concerning. Yeah. But again, the only way to get Bean out of here is to get Sean out of here. Even though I think Sean has been trying to separate himself from Bean in order to give himself a little bit more time. Maybe Bean gets fired after this season if they don't make it to the AFC Championship game, and he blames it on the guys that they've been getting in there. Maybe. We'll see. But thank you for that. Matt, thank you. Where'd my music go? I supposed to be on repeat. All right. I think that's everybody. I said that last time though, didn't I? Certified genius. Thank you. Nico, thank you. No bones. Thank you. KC gonna dog walk us. All right. Is that everybody this time? Yeah, I think so. Yep. All right. We made it back to the top. No, I'm sorry. Dang. Forgot to thank you. Thank you, bro. All right. So, catch us tomorrow. We will be, or not tomorrow. I'm sorry. We are not going to go live for the podcast on Friday. So we're going to be recording it tomorrow. We'll release it on Friday, so you can still tune in regular time. It'll air at 5:30 p.m. on Friday. Again, apologize for the scheduling issues or whatever, but work is work. Work is doing what work do. So we got to make it work for the next month, and then I think after that we should be fine schedule wise going forward. So I really appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. Again, if you have any questions or have anything that you want to ask us about the Carolina Panthers game, make sure that you send that to us in some way, shape, or form. And whether it's comments after the show, DM us, comment on another episode or something like that. However you got to get the question to us or the comment to us that you want us to include in tomorrow's recording of Friday's show, make sure you get that to us. All right. With that being said, hopefully we got some new press conferences to get to next week in the next episode of Post Podium Conversations. Thank you to everybody that tuned in tonight, all 31 of you. I think we got up to like 44 at one point, so I'll thank the other folks that tuned in and left. But I've been your co-host, your only host right now, Aramis, and y'all have a great night. Peace.